Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc!
Welcome to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, brought to you by Prokarts Race Centre.
Far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside!
The ultimate pit stop.
The safety car is coming in.
Fueling your passion for motorsport.
With an emotional moment that means everything.
All of the latest results, analysis and interviews.
Roar the drivers on to the final lap of this race.
I'm Jamie Lemura, motorsport enthusiast, historian and media presenter.
And I'm Lee Harrison, motorsport professional, Sprint Master Karts race driver and Formula One alumni.
Welcome back to Negative Camber. We're continuing our karting segment thanks to dkwilkinson.com, but we actually changed discipline slightly and we go into superkarts. And with us on the line is our special guest for tonight, probably the face and maybe the ambassador, you could say, of superkarts here in Australia at the moment, Jordie Ford. How are you, Jordie?
Hey mate, how you going?
Yeah, good. Mate, what are you doing with yourself these days at the moment, considering not too much racing's been happening?
Yeah, not too much racing's been happening with all the COVID, especially here in Victoria. But we're really looking forward to some racing in 2022. We've been setting up a national championship or a big national championship next year. First round will be at the Bend, and then the second one at Phillip Island. But apart from that, you know, we kicked things off last weekend with the state championships at Phillip Island. So that's pretty much been the only thing happening in the last 6 months.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky here in South Australia at the moment. There's been some racing with the Adelaide Superkart Club. I know that we get some footage from time to time and some results that we do try and cover as well. So we've got names here at the moment for our listeners that are not too familiar. We've got, I'll call them the fabulous Armadio boys with Team Armadio there. We've got, we've got Ian Williams as well, Brandon Stillwell, also racing a lot as well. So they keep us up to speed with some of the events that's going on. But I guess from your perspective, can you describe to us the differences primarily between the Superkart and, say, a KZ shifter kart?
It was a big learning curve when I jumped in the Superkart back in, I think, 2014. I've been racing KZ for 3 or 4 years with Shamek Racing and Bemmerkart. And jumping into it, it was just a huge difference feeling the aerodynamics kicking in. You know, you've got a front and rear wing, so getting used to that was huge, but also you're laying down a little bit more, so getting used to the driving position was also a bit different because you're not in a normal go-kart. You can't shift your shoulders around, shift your weight around and generate grip. You know, you're kind of really relying on the aerodynamics and the setup of the car.
Yep. What's it like to drive the 250cc superkart, yours in particular? Can you describe for us that haven't had that opportunity what it's like and the sensations you're kind of feeling on the road?
I'm still getting used to it. I don't think I'll ever get used to it. It's so fast. There's so much acceleration and just so much grip. I've been racing them for over 5 years now, the 250 Superkarts, and now the Division 1 twin cylinder. We're doing speeds of 250 k's at Phillip Island and the Bend. And, you know, you're on that edge of control. You know, that's the real, like, you know, you're on a roller coaster. You're just trying to hold on, but, you're in control, but, you know, that fine, exciting edge, you know, the adrenaline edge where you're just in control. I love it.
Yeah. You did some racing overseas there for a little while at one stage, is that right?
Yeah, so after winning the Australian Championship in 2015, we thought, you know, let's have a look at what we can achieve overseas and learn a little bit racing against the Europeans. So we ventured over to the British GP at Donington in 2016, and we really surprised ourselves. We actually won the British GP, so it's probably the biggest single superkart race in the world.
Yep.
And then we thought, you know, let's do a little more. Let's see what other tracks and championships we can take on. So we actually participated in the 2017 CIK European Championship, and we managed to take that take the European Mono Cup championship home. So it was really awesome getting that exposure for Australia, but also bringing back the knowledge and experience from Europe to share with everyone in Australia.
Yeah, cool. And how does the Australian series, both from a national and a domestic standpoint, compare to the racing standards overseas?
We're actually growing quite well here in Australia. In Europe, it's obviously very formal compared to what a lot of people would see the sprint kart CIK championship formalities be like. So they're very, they run pretty parallel to that over in Europe. But over here in Australia, we're a little bit more laid back and, it's a lot more of a hobby sport for a lot of people here. So we're able to just come together as a tight-knit community and enjoy it together. But the racing is still just as fierce, and we're slowly getting our name back out there, and the availability of karts is growing phenomenally. So we're going to keep growing, and it's just going to keep becoming more professional and prestigious as it has been.
Yeah, it's funny because, Superkarts for me was really what got me into the sport. I rember watching the likes of Barbara Hepworth and, Les May and Ralph Ruprecht racing at the Adelaide Grand Prix back in the mid-90s as well. And, for me to see that, those karts zipping around the street circuit with these, giant spoilers and, going down Brabham Straight at, well over 200k plus was what got me into it. But it kind of feels like over that period of time since the Grand Prix had gone over to Melbourne here in Adelaide, that sprint karting in particular has kind of become in the forefront as the sport of choice. But I guess that the sport's been laced with guys like Nick Percat, etc., that have gone from superkarts into V8 Supercars. But why has superkarts in particular take more of a backward step a back seat in comparison to sprint karting here in Australia as the karting discipline of choice?
Firstly, I think the exposure, it dropped back after the Grand Prix. Didn't have us on board anymore, that 25, 30 years ago. So, if it's not in people's face, they don't know about it. As well as that, the accessibility to go sprint car racing is probably in the past decade been a lot easier to, buy an easy kart, hop straight on the circuit, get your license, get racing. Whereas superkarts, there's just not as many go-karts available. I think the go-kart retailers haven't quite kept up to date and pushing their businesses. It's an aging population within our category because we haven't had that exposure. But now I think there's an injection of youth. We've got people like Nicola Shembry, Tim Weir, he's the president up in Queensland. The Amadio boys, Harry Giorgio over in Adelaide. Mm-hmm. Those guys are really injecting a bit of youth and enthusiasm into the sport, as well as a lot of karts being available from Europe and people building them over here again. So slowly, there's more karts available for people to race. There's a lot more social media now. We're sharing our sport. We want people to see it. Kart Sport News has been a fantastic avenue for not only sprint cars but superkarting here in Australia as well. But yeah, we're slowly stepping it up. Lap records are getting broken around circuits again. Technology does the circle and it evolves. So the karts are getting a little bit faster. We're breaking records again and making a name for ourselves. So hopefully that exposure keeps, growing on itself, and we can keep getting our name out there. And people consider us over just normal sprint karts. Who wouldn't want to race around Australia's best circuit and be faster than a V8 Supercar for a fraction of the cost? So, the more that we educate people about that option rather than going to a sprint kart, the more people we're going to get.
Yeah. What I noticed that you've become more of like the face of the sport from a promotional standpoint. Is that something that you've taken on board as, as a want or a desire to do it, or have you been entrusted by, Australian Superkarts to say, right, you know, you're the man on this. You're quite handy with social media. Run with it.
I wouldn't say I have much. I wouldn't say I'm too handy with social media, but I really tried to. I felt like it was missing. You know, there was a missing link. No one really knew about our sport. It wasn't shared enough or publicised. So I thought, you know, I've been able to experience so much and race overseas and race all around Australia and just have an absolute ball, and I've just developed this huge passion for the sport. And that stemmed from Scott Williams from Williams Racing, his passion for the sport. And I just want to see people enjoy it the way I have, and it creates the opportunities that I've had to be able to race everywhere, race overseas. So, well, how can I share that? Is the first thing I can do is social media, you know, share as much stuff as I can, create a few social media accounts. So there's Australian Superkarts on Instagram and Facebook, the Australian Superkart drivers and teams group on Facebook. So just getting our name out there. The most recent video that Scott Williams shared, who I race with, he shared a video of just a supercart on a dyno producing over 100 horsepower, which is, you know, unheard of for a go-kart. And that has now reached almost 6 million views on TikTok. And we're just mind blown. So we just know the power of social media, and showing people our sport will get people engaged. And yeah, that was really missing. So yeah, the more I can share it, the more I can get people involved.
Yeah, cool. Hey, what's the cost of running a superkart in comparison to a sprint car? How does it compare?
I would say that it's pretty similar, depending on, you know, it's always subjective to how much racing you do and what level you want to race at. Look, depending on what you want to achieve. So let's go 250 twin superkart. You're obviously going to have a huge outlay because it's an expensive go-kart. So let's say we start at $20,000 for an outlay, a little bit more than a KZ kart, brand new, but it's going to have an extra cylinder on it. So maintenance is going to be a little bit more. So costs are going to be on par, but it really does depend how much racing you do. So let's say I'm doing 2 to 3 races in a season. We might only spend, you know, $5,000 for the year on maintaining the cart, and you know, we can slip in a few extra little races in there, and we don't have to buy brand new tyres every weekend, say like sprint karts. Whereas I'm sure there's a lot of people in the Australian Kart Championship racing KZ who would be spending in excess of $3,000 to $5,000 a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, definitely.
It's comparative in some ways, but different in others. The way I look at it is I get to race around Phillip Island, the Bend, Sydney Motorsport Park, Queensland Raceway, all those race circuits that, you know, the V8 Supercars do, and they're spending millions of dollars a year, you know, $2 to $3 million you hear budget flying around, whereas we might only spend, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 in a year. So it's a fraction of the cost, and it's more comparable to big race cars rather than sprint cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I love watching the video clips. So, hey, mate, we're going to head off to a short break. Do you mind staying on the line, and we'll come back and we'll do some recapping of some V8 Supercars?
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Thanks
awesome,
for the
mate. We'll speak to you soon.
Get ready to ignite your racing passion at Prokarts Race Centre, your ultimate destination for motorsport excellence. Our track isn't just a playground, it's a classroom where 25 years of racing knowledge come to life. Imagine having a team of seasoned experts guiding you from the rookie to the pro. Our driver coaching services aren't just about finding those elusive extra tenths on the track, they're about moulding winners. With hands-on guidance, racing line tips and data analysis, you'll not only experience the thrill of speed, but the satisfaction of victory. Join us and witness the transformation of your racing game as our expertise propels you to the forefront of the competition. Visit prokartsracecentre.com.au or pop in for a chat at 30 Research Road, Paraka. Prokarts Race Centre, fueling your passion, igniting your potential.
And on the line we've got Jordie Ford with us. You there, Jordie?
Yeah, guys, thanks so much. It's great to catch up and talk motorsport.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're going to have you on board for our V8 Supercar segment. So we're going to sort of cover races 26 to 29. There was 30 that were meant to occur today, but that was rained out, unfortunately. So you've been following much of the V8s this season?
A little bit. Obviously, without Scotty McLaughlin, it's, you kind of thought that Shane Van Gisbergen would run away with the title this year, but it's really cool to see a little bit more competition around Sydney these past few weekends.
It's one thing that's definitely, when they first released the fixture for the 4 races at Sydney, we kind of thought it was going to be rinse and repeat. And to some degree it kind of was, but I think we've been fortunate enough that the weather played a massive role in all of it, as well as the differing tyre combinations and strategies as well. But, in the end, Shane Van Gisbergen was announced as the winner of the championship today. And then when you look back overall over the course of the season, probably a fair winner, wouldn't you say, Billy?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job and been pretty hard to beat all this season. But like you mentioned, it's been good to see the change in form for a lot of teams out there through Sydney. Erebus have really stood up, and it was really awesome to see Will Brown get his first win and his first podium. Yep. And his first pole position.
Jordie, what was your take on the Jamie Whincup versus Shane Van Gisbergen battle in race 28 last week?
I thought it was fantastic. I've gone over it a couple of times, and there's so many perspectives you could think of. There's a multi-million-dollar team with multi-million-dollar cars, rubbing wheels, and trying to look good for sponsors. But it made for a great show, and at the same time, we're all racers. I'm sure Lee could attest to this. Like, being a racer, it doesn't matter what you get told, to back off for your teammate or anything. We've just got this thing within us that just wants to win. So, why would you want to pull over for your teammate? Who cares if he's got a championship to win?
Especially when you're going to be his boss for next season too, and you're going to want you just want to put him back in his little place and just remind him, I'm the boss, I'll do what I want. So you are right though. It's good to see racing and back from the go-kart days. You never wanted to let anyone through, even your best friends. So it doesn't matter how close you are. Sometimes you do want to race door to door, and it didn't really cost them much in the end, which is always good to see. But if I was Roland, I would have been scratching my head a little bit. Race this week and then got to pack the cars back up and head to Bathurst, and they can't head back to the factory and rebuild them because they can't get in due to COVID. So, yeah, bit of an interesting one, that one.
Well, it's probably good that Jamie, is a team boss, or is going to be, and he's probably thinking short term as well as long term, like you said. Put you back in your place. But, he already knows that we're in a really good position to win the team's championship. We're in a really good position to win the drivers' championship, which they end up doing.
I'm just going to have some fun with it.
So, yeah, let's have some fun while we do it.
I think it was just more of a statement from J-Dub basically saying, well, you know what, Giz, you've enforced your way through a few people over time, just giving you a little bit of a subtle reminder that, anything you can do, I can do just as good, if not better. So, I applaud J-Dub for that. I probably would have been in the same boat. They were catching Will Brown, so it wasn't like it was, and he was right. If they worked together, they would have got there in the end, but they spent too much time mucking around with each other, and that 2 or 3 laps was all the difference that Will Brown needed to shore it up. So, having said that, Will Brown certainly tactically and racecraft-wise showed a dab hand as well, slowing him up in the right corners and straightening the car up when he needed to protect his tyre wear as well. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go through the races of the results of race 26, 27 and 28. So race 26 was winner was Di Pasquale. So Anton Di Pasquale first, Shane Van Gisbergen second, Will Brown third, Jamie Whincup fourth, Brodie Kostecki 5th, Scott Pye 6th, Will Davison 7th, Zane Goddard 8th, Tim Slade 9th, Andre Heimgartner in 10th, and then Todd Hazelwood came out in 12th, our very own Todd. Race 27, we had Anton Di Pasquale first, Jamie Whincup second, Shane Van Gisbergen third, Chaz Mostert 4th, Will Davison 5th, Mark Winterbottom 6th, Nick Percat 7th, Will Brown 8th, Brodie Kostecki 9th, and Bryce Fullwood in 10th. Then race 28 saw Will Brown win his first ever V8 Supercar event. Did you know, Lee, that he was the the 82nd driver in the history of the championship to actually win in his first year.
Great stat.
Was good. Did you like that one, did you?
I did like that
good.
stat. Saw that one today.
There's more did you knows coming after. Win Cup was second, Shane Van Gisbergen third, Nick Percat fourth, Todd Hazelwood fifth. Cracking race from Todd. Delivered finally on what was bubbling away at the surface that whole 4-week period. So I'm glad that he got a top 5. Scott Pye 6th, Cameron Waters 7th, Chaz Moster 8th, Anton Di Pasquale 9th, and Jack LeBrock in 10th. And then last night they had the first of the 250-kilometre endurance races that was held overnight. And if you saw the racing last night, it was superb.
Yes,
different
it was
kind
awesome
of
race.
Yeah. Did you watch it last night, Jordie?
I didn't get to watch it live, but checking out all the highlights, the racing being so close, it's like you said, it's really spiced things up having that fourth weekend at Sydney, and everyone is now driving on the edge of their limits. They've all had plenty of time to get to grips with the track, to just make the most of every pass, every inch of the circuit. And I loved watching Moster and Di Pasquale really push the limits. There was a tussle there, I think, towards the end of the race.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was also really good to see the different tyre combinations and compounds and strategies work as well.
And throw some weather in there as well. The weather always manages to spice things up. So that was good to see a bit of, weather play as well.
It goes to show that the longer races allow a bit of strategy and it throws the racing. It actually makes the racing better, in my opinion. I mean, if it was up to me, they'd be having 250-kilometre races in every round. But
with multiple compounds and...
Yeah, 100%. It's just not feasible, though, from a finance point of view as well.
Much better than the sprint races.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. So the results for that was Shane Van Gisbergen first, Jamie Whincup second, Cameron Waters third, Anton Di Pasquale fourth, Chaz Mostert fifth, Scott Pye sixth, Will Brown seventh, Brody Kostecki eighth, Will Davison ninth, and Nick Percat in 10th. Poor Todd got the raw end of the stick last night. On both counts, he got served by Nick on the exit and the back end of the circuit, which I thought was a bit rough, and then got the double whammy with a double stack and then a poor pit stop as well that sent him back to last, and he fought his way up to 14th. So, yeah, Sharon was online last night. She was pretty vocal.
Yeah, she would have been chewing her nails and stomping up and down in the garage for sure. I'm sure Jordie's seen Sharon in all their finest form as well.
The best kart mums I've seen around, so I'm sure it's kept going, all the way to the top. I don't think anything will ever stop her.
No, she would have walked around with
her... She's the number one fan.
Oh, yeah, she would have walked around with her fingers crossed the whole night as well, no doubt. So, mate, Jordie, we're off to a news break now. It's been a pleasure actually having you on the show, even though sometimes half an hour is not long enough. But, mate, we'll be in touch. We'll look forward to catching up with you next season when we get a full season under our belt and we've got a lot to talk about.
Looking forward to it, guys. Thanks so much for having me, and, good luck. You guys are running bloody awesome show, so look forward to catching up with you guys soon.
No worries, mate. Thank you, and we'll speak to you soon. We're off.
You've reached the checkered flag of another episode of Negative Camber the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by ProKarts Race Centre. A huge thank you to you, our incredible listeners. Your support and passion for motorsports fuels our enthusiasm to bring you the latest results, analysis, and interviews from the racing world. Keep that FOMO at bay by subscribing to Negative Camber on your favourite podcast platform. We'd also love it if you could leave us a review and share the show with your fellow racing enthusiasts. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. Remember, Negative Camber is more than just a podcast. We're a community of dedicated fans who live and breathe motorsports. Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners. Until next time, stay fueled with passion, embrace the Negative Camber, and keep chasing those podium finishes.